Welcome back to the CEO Advantage podcast. Welcome again, my co-host, Millie Albers. Nice to see you, Millie.
Good to see you.
We have an incredible guest today. I know I say that regularly, but this one's going to be special. Adriana Brusi is our guest today. Welcome, Adriana.
Hi.
By way of intro, I don't normally read out, but this is... And I'm going to cut hers down because I've got such a long intro. I'm going to cut it down a little bit, but you need to hear this. Adriana Brusi is a powerhouse entrepreneur, hospitality maven and driving force behind Crowds Now, and we're going to find out more about Crowds Now. Born and raised in Hong Kong, Adriana blossomed early, making the Asia-Pacific swimming team at 12 and earning the title of the youngest director in Hong Kong at just 16, where she led youth arts initiatives and worked to support at-risk children in orphanages across Hong Kong and Kathmandu. Her journey spans across hotel management roles with Ramada, Mirvac and Accor, and headhunted as the director of event sales and marketing. We'll talk to her a little bit about that as well, to one of the largest catering companies in the world, overseeing stadiums in Australia-wide and eventually launching and running her own restaurants. This would lead to her founding Event Negotiators. There, she disrupted event procurement and management in corporate Australia, bringing and hosting names like Richard Branson, Tim Ferriss, Susan Sarandon, Jane Seymour, Goldie Hawn, and many more to Australia. There's not much Adriana hasn't done in her short time in the world. We're so excited to have you here.
Thank you for having me.
Let's start. We ask every guest the same question to start with, and that is, what was your first job that you got paid for?
So I actually had two simultaneously, side by side. The very first one, I mean, they were almost hands in hand because they were driven by as a child, I was given pocket money. And when I was given that pocket money, I had to account for what I was spending it on to my parents, my mum especially. And I didn't like that. I wanted to be able to spend it without telling her where every cent was going. And she said the only way I could do that was if I had a job. And a UK-based 5-star fish and chip restaurant was landing in Hong Kong called Harry Ramsden's. But because they served alcohol, minors weren't allowed to work there. And I was quite persuasive. I was quite annoyingly persuasive. I was there all the time, and I convinced them to let me, what they call, host at their front door and just show people to their seats. At least that's where I started. I would end up doing a lot more. So Harry Ramsden's was one, and that was during the week after school, in between that and what would be swim training. Okay. And Birkenstock on the weekend was the other, and doing children's shoes. So I had both of those.
Mm. So your work, how old were you then?
So it was just before I turned between 13 and 14.
Wow. So you were swimming competitively, going to school and working two jobs. Mm-hmm. And so where did you get that level of work ethic from?
I think from watching both my parents, to be honest. There was that was there. And also I was ridiculously independent. I knew that I wanted to travel on my own and do a lot of those things on my own. I had a goal that I wanted to do by the time I was 16, which was to travel, say, backpack a little bit. We didn't have Airbnb. It was more bed and breakfasts back then. Yeah. So the narrative with my mum was whatever I saved, she would match. Which by the time I was 16, I'd saved $10,000. Wow. So back then it was quite substantive.
Huge. Yeah.
And so I don't think she expected me to save as much as I did. Yeah. And then she matched it, and I went, myself and a friend. We started together traveling. It was, I don't think traveling with someone is as easy. And back then there was no mobile phones either. So I think I called my mum twice in that whole trip. But I was away for nearly 8 weeks.
Yeah. Where did you go?
So I went all across the UK, but I didn't go to, you know, how people normally go to, let's say, London and Edinburgh, all the main places.
Yeah.
I went to like Reading and Hartlepool and Dunfermline, and I went to all these off the track places across the UK. I still did some of the main ones, but I wanted to experience. I don't even think I said that right when I said Dunfermline. I feel like it's like Dunfermline or whatever, but however you say it or pronounce it. Stoke-on-Trent. I just went off the track a little bit, you know, to really experience the UK.
Yeah.
And it was amazing. Cardiff, Cork. Okay, I couldn't understand anything. I didn't even think they spoke English when I got there.
Yes.
So it was, but it was just amazing. It was such an amazing trip.
And so you went from that trip back to Hong Kong. Did you leave from Hong Kong, or were you in Australia then?
No, I was still there till the handover. So the handover happened just at the end of 97.
Yep.
And then I came to Australia in the beginning of 98, followed the weather initially and came to Queensland.
Mm-hmm.
It was very quiet and still Hong Kong's very busy. So I went to Brisbane. I felt like I was ticking all the stereotypes because I lived in Kangaroo Point near the Pineapple Hotel. I was taking the City Cat to university, and my friends were like, so you're taking a boat. You live near a place called the Pineapple Hotel. So it was quite to all the friends that were still back there. And it was beautiful, but it was just very slow.
Yeah.
So then I came to Melbourne, which was a little bit faster.
Yep.
So I've traveled extensively. So I did Queensland, did Melbourne. I didn't stay for very long before I got sort of itchy feet and I was traveling. So I was between Melbourne, South America for a little while. I was back in Melbourne. And I did struggle with university because I was always working. So even while I was at university, I was working. So I was in the music industry. And I felt like I was learning a lot more about business whilst I was working than what the teachers were teaching. And I struggled with the concept of lectures, you know, where you were being spoken at and not allowed to ask any questions. And I was that person that was like putting my hand up all the time. And they're like, this is not a Q&A session. We speak, you listen. So dictaphones became my friend, because again, we're talking at a time where mobile phones, I think when the first mobile phone came out, it was the Ericsson, was like, you know, or the Nokia was like the one little tiny screen. So I'd just leave a dictaphone in the room and go out, and I would rather be earning money, and I could touch type. So when I grew up, my mum sent me to secretary school.
Yeah.
So I could type 145 words per minute, and I could do word processing, and I had taught myself already the basics of coding. So I was typing everything up. So I was taking a dictaphone and I was essentially typing, before everything was on computers and online, all my own notes. Meanwhile, I was out earning because logically in my head, I could make money by the time that lecture had finished and what they had taught. At least I was working from a place of I already knew that information. Or I felt they weren't up to date with the things I already knew. And so even prior to some of the things you shared, I was, working with Sanity and, back where it was in Melbourne Central, and I was becoming, store manager, area manager. Then Sanity actually had Sane Bar in the city. And then I was working with other record labels and other nightclubs, and I understood the filling of a venue, the conversion, what it took to do. And so inadvertently, I was learning promotion and other skill sets and par levels and different remits in other industries that intrigued me about, I wasn't great with authority, but I understood that I didn't know everything. And if something interested me about an industry, then I was interested. So the interesting thing about Sanity, for those of us of a certain age bracket will remember Empire Records.
Mm-hmm.
So the reason I went to Sanity was I was like, like every other, say, num that watched Empire Records that went, oh, what a fun thing to do, until the manager at the time went, here's a vacuum. And I went, no, I didn't come here to vacuum your store. I came here because of music. And he's like, yeah, so every morning you get to polish all the CDs and you get to vacuum. And I was like, well, that's a sucky job. So it was learning all the things that it actually takes to sustain a business, which is all the crappy jobs. Same with the nightclub industry or the bar industry. It's not all the, here, would you like a free, like whatever I had thrown into my headspace that I thought was the glitz and the glam. It's the 3 people have vomited in the toilet. Enjoy.
Yeah.
So in my headspace, that's not what this job looked like at all. So it was understanding that with all the notoriety that you think a job might look like is the complete other side of the spectrum.
There's enormous power. There was a news article out last week about AI and all of the things around AI. But one of the concerns, most of the concerns around AI, I don't really get too caught up on, except one from last week, which was about AI's ability to take over what first jobs, these early stage jobs, because the first jobs, particularly if you are studying and working, but first jobs in retail, which, or sales, often people think, oh, it's a sucky job because it's pretty low paid and you've got to do lots of things. However, everything it takes to run a business, you learn in hospitality and retail around service, around the small things, how the accumulation of small things makes a difference and all of those sort of things. But the power of first jobs in setting up what you know, and that, as Adriana saying about, I was going to university to learn things, which is where it's supposed to learn things, but I was learning more on the job and practically. Were you expected to? What did you study?
So I studied. Initially, I started off studying directing and choreography because I was like, oh, I'm going to be a dancer.
Yep.
Much to my parents' horror. And then I would go in and do business because I realized I thought that was an area I was going to go down just because of where I sat in the industry, and more because of the production side and the things there in the arts. And then I was like, this is actually the skill set I'm lacking. So later on that would come down to, I don't have any of the skill set for this. And even when I was in industry where I would learn all of these, and I think I sort of shared with you briefly before, I had and I would start lots of businesses. One thing I had no concept on, people. Oh my God. So managing people, and especially because I was young. So first of all, I think when you're young and you come into looking after people, if they're older, you do this dogmatic thing where you're like, if I'm big and I'm loud and I'm strong, they will listen. No, they won't. And the fastest way to learn about someone's behavior, and actually I would say the nightclub industry is actually quite good for this, and I used to test it, is put someone on the door of a nightclub and give them power. Just do it for one night and you will see exactly who they are. Because all of a sudden they think, literally that song, I have the power. Yeah. Customer service is everything. How you treat people is everything. And someone can't hide when you do that. So if you give someone, and because I was doing a lot of work in the entertainment industry, and because I was bringing in, even before your Jane Seymour's, I was looking after a lot of after parties for your like Eminem, D12, Ricky Martin, all of those when they were coming in. Taylor Swift did an event at Billboard 2015, way before she was who she was now, right? So there were a lot of little private events that we were doing. You give someone the ability, like Mercury Lounge, Silvers, Chasers, to be at the front door and say, okay, so this is the dress code. This is what we have to wear or what we have to do. The leniencies are up to you, okay? I'm going to leave that with you to decide. And you watch someone go, did you even look in the mirror before you came out tonight? And that's who they are, right? Because all of a sudden you've given them a moment. So I always say, hire the person, not the resume.
Yeah.
You've just seen who your person is. So even when we can't decide if we want to bring someone into the business, I'll go down to contacts I still have now and be like, can I just pop someone on your door for an hour?
Probably the equivalent in other organisations would be the reception.
Correct.
Be the receptionist for a day and then you'd get a very good judge of character on.
Yeah.
And McDonald's famously still do the back to store day, where if you're an owner every year, you have to spend a day working on the counter at McDonald's, just to remember what frontline service is about. I think one of the things that you and I have talked about before is I'm very open in saying I will judge. People say, well, you shouldn't judge people. It's like, oh, I will judge you based on how you treat waiting staff in a restaurant or a cafe. So I, in a first meeting with most people, will insist on doing it in a cafe, because what I actually want to do is, if I am going to do business with you or hire you or do all that sort of stuff, I want to see how you behave.
But a lot of people are on show and tell though. So how do you gauge that?
I'm going to let you in on my secret now.
Tell us.
I'm watching where your eyes go. So if you're being served a coffee and we just keep on talking, you completely ignored. I want to see you look at the person who served you a coffee and say thank you, looking at them, not just let it slide in underneath you and keep on going.
So I go one further. I want the person I'm with, I want you to ask their name, so I look for, and because of hotels and experience, I want that. So I'm about, I always say, like, excellence. Like, for me, I think we are in an arena now where customer service is, I actually did a survey the other day just to get people's feedback on just how detrimental customer service is. And, it's just appalling. And I think a lot of the times, one thing is, and we'll talk about this more with crowds now, but it's generating the lead for your business, right? But you'll get, and a lot of businesses are at this point at the moment, especially the big companies, where they've taken for granted their customer loyalty that's sitting there. And if you have the audacity to bring a problem to them, they will literally put you on radio silence or make it like you are an annoying pebble in their shoe for bringing that problem to them. And they don't want to remedy it. They will go, not my problem, not my problem. How dare you identify a problem in our organization? And there's no one that I say, I have a PhD in results. And if you empower your staff to take a problem and resolve it, you will create amazing opportunities in your organization. But for some reason, something is going on where people just go, oh, I cannot even believe that they brought a problem to us. All missing the point.
Yep.
And that will breed, actually, the faster you resolve a problem, the better the solution. Mistakes happen. You can be in a restaurant where the chef's had a bad day, something's happened, food's missing, and now your food is 45 minutes late, but you've got somewhere you have to be, and you've brought people with you, you're trying to make a good impression, and you're angry. I'm wait staff, and you go, unacceptable. This place is supposed to be synonymous for great service, great speed, blah, blah, blah. And I go, it's not my fault. Take it up with the chef.
Yeah, hello.
What?
Yeah, no.
The immediate response is, you're right. We are supposed to be synonymous for great food, great this. Food's coming off the menu. Not only that, you come back in a week's time and I'll give you 50% off that as well. So not only have you fixed that, if the food comes out in time, I'm going to do this. Let me get you a glass of wine while we're waiting. And on top of that, you come back again, you drop my whatever it is, and you'll get 50% off your next. He's got nowhere to go with being argumentative because you've totally taken away, pulled out any level of animosity. You've acknowledged, you validated, you're right. We should be doing better. Forget whose fault it is. We should have delivered. We didn't. Whose fault it is irrelevant. Just resolve it. And you've not only got someone who's going to go back out going, I had this problem today. This is what happened. They fixed it and they offered it. I'm bringing 10 people back here.
In my 25 years as a CEO, one of the hardest things to find was a consulting and advisory firm where they'd actually been CEOs. I created CEO Advantage to be the advisory firm I was looking for. Go to ceoadvantage.com.au and find out how we can help you and your team be the best in the business. Isn't it often the case that your best customers, your most loyal customers, come from the ones where you made a mistake,
100%.
but you recovered from it? I think the other thing that Adriana's talking about there, which we talked with someone last week about, and this concept of when you get put on hold and they say your call is important to us. What's interesting and ironic about that, but what you spoke to when saying it's 45 minutes, is your time isn't valuable to us, though. Your call might be because we might get something out of you, but your time isn't. And I think it's the other way around. Your call isn't that important, but the time you're giving us to make that phone call is what's important. And it's the devaluation of other people's time, which comes from an arrogance that my time is somehow more important than your time, so I'll waste yours while I get on with my things. But a service mentality, a great service mentality, flips that, doesn't it? It says, I'm privileged to have your time that you're giving us, so let's make sure that that gets a return.
Well, there's also this thing, right, where we know as individuals, right, we've been told no one's indispensable. Companies, especially big ones, don't think that, but we watched Ansett fall over, right? By way of example. It's not true. That's a fallacy. We've seen in the hospitality industry, right? All of a sudden, a restaurant that's here 2 months, 3 months in ridiculous amounts of debt, they fall over and all of us are left going, how did that happen? I know how it happens. I know you'll know how it happens, right? So these industries where they just treat people that are loyal customers without listening and onboarding that feedback, absolutely. There's a roll-on effect to that. And it doesn't matter. And again, the other fallacy is, well, I mean, how important are they? Everyone's important. And it is, if you're doing that to one person, it's not in silo.
Yeah.
And that's the other mistake that's happening. And, you know, it's interesting. I was in the Apple shop and had the most incredible experience. Now, I've shared that feedback. I don't even know if it'll make that feedback back to the individual. But what part of what made that experience, and I know Apple's known for doing some great things like that, but it wasn't relegated to all of the individuals, but this person in particular was exceptional because they were so proactive. So I probably wouldn't have spent what I spent if it wasn't for the individual in there, purely because, you know, first of all, I didn't even have the intention of doing that. I was just in conversation and they were so, say customer centric, right? So even when I inquired about something, they didn't go, yep, it's just over there.
Mm-hmm.
They were like, here, let me get this. Can I get this? Why don't you sit it? Can I grab? All of that led to, and you know, there's a gentleman called Will Guidera who wrote a book called Unreasonable Hospitality. Cannot stress enough, right? I literally have it as an onboarding book in my own business for everyone. It is brilliant. It is literally about superior levels of service, and it's not relegated to hospitality. It is for anyone who is just about genuinely looking after their client base. It is that sentiment of, you know, how you serve is as important as what you serve, right? And it is so important. And I think people are just like, you know, here's our product there. And it's the difference, you know, of going, you know, let's say you've got your Apple computer on the table, but even if you wanted a pair of, earpods to go with it, and there's 5, and it's like, oh, do you happen to have AirPods? And it's like, yep, just on the shelf there. And you're sitting at a table in an Apple store. I mean, you have eyes, So I know you can see them there, and they range in price from like $500 to, $50, depending on whichever the third party ones or the ones in there. The difference on what you might buy in that moment is someone going and grabbing them and going, this is what I have. This is why I'd get this. These are all the features. And you might have, to your sentiment, time is a non-renewable resource and it's a valuable commodity. You can't buy it. You don't get to get it back. If you've got 15 minutes and someone goes, I would get this because of A, B, C, D, E. Yeah, let's just go. And you're out.
So what do you think are some of the absolute essentials that organisations need to be doing to enhance the customer experience?
So everyone wants to be seen, valued, appreciated, period, right? Whether you're in a relationship with a person, your friends, in business, when you walk into a coffee shop, right? If it's one you've been going to 5 times and they still go, so what can I get you? You literally feel invisible, right? Mm-hmm. It's no different to being with your partner and waking up and feeling completely invisible. And it's like, I'm sorry, were you going to say good morning to me? Right? Like, it's the same thing. Like, no one wants to feel like they don't exist. So if you're with a business and you're not looking after your existing clients, why are you driving more traffic in? What makes you think you're going to look after the new ones, right? If you haven't got raving fans now, then you are wasting money. You're just casting a net out to what? And I always say attention is not the same as intention. And even if you manage to convert a few more, then all that's going to happen, it's like a net when you're fishing. You're just going to drop off the existing ones who are then going to start talking badly about you because they've already given you their money and you're not looking after them, right? To your sentiment, when you say, where do your eyes, right? If you're, and I say this, I'm using relationships. If you're on a date with someone and every time someone walks in, you're like, is that person going to stay with you? No. And no client wants to go, I'm so sorry, we're just so busy. We've got so much. I don't care, right? I want to feel like I'm your only customer. And if you haven't got the resources to support that, then go get it or I'm going to give it to someone else. And I think a lot of businesses use diffusion of responsibility, lack of accountability, and all these other reasons as to why they can't service you. And it's not our problem. And if you can't do that, then stop bringing in more or get your framework right for your business.
Mm. This is what Adriana's talking about as well. Is you see this so much on endless reels of Instagram ads with people saying, I can drive more people to your site or I can drive more people to your podcast and all of these different things. And it's like, great, why? What for, who and what for and why? More is not necessarily better, as you're saying. I love Adriana and I had a conversation obviously before we got here, and one of the most wonderful things in Adriana's new business that we'll turn to now, but I loved the way she said this. The Crowds Now is about driving people to build businesses, and we'll let her explain that. But she warns them, you'd better be good because you're going to get what you wish for.
Yeah.
And that is, if you're going to drive lots of people to your business or drive lots of people to your website, you better be careful. You might get what you wish for.
Yeah. And it's your actual avatar, so we also don't disclose who our actual clients are because it's not about us.
So let's come back a step and go, let's talk about Crowds Now, what this business is.
Yeah.
So our audience can have an understanding of what the essence of your idea is and then how it manifests to benefit businesses.
Yeah. And I'll give some context so I don't sound, so there's some expertise that sort of sits behind who I am and what I do here. So obviously I've got the event management background of who I am, and there's a procurement and auditing side to that too. So I worked with hundreds of corporates basically in a negotiation perspective in contracts, both in Australia and globally. I've got a data integrity background to that. So CRMs, ERPs, LMSs, and just so I'm not using anagrams, so people are going, oh, pretty words, what does that all mean? So CRMs are basically what stores your data. So whether, when you're aggregating first name, last name, email, mobile, so that you can market to people, that's your basic CRM. And I'll explain, because CrowdSnow actually does none of that anymore, but this is just for background, okay? LMSs are learning management systems. So a lot of universities will have those, or even remote. So by way of example, Moodle is a really big one. And then ERPs are like crossovers between say logistics and CRMs. So NetSuite, by way of example, is one. But there's even more, let's say shipping companies, or where you've got lots of parts, or even car manufacturers, right? Where you've got to have the nuts, the bolt, all the pieces that come together. So just depending on different systems and tools for different mechanisms, that's essentially what they're housing. So I became obsessed, okay, with all these different systems, and CRMs, obviously the ones that people are most familiar with as far as names from branding, Salesforce.
Mm-hmm.
Infusionsoft was obviously the biggest, one outside of that. Then, and depending again on what, they're the creme de la creme, okay? Then you've got your Active Campaign Monitor, MailChimp, right? Brevo, there's loads of them, thousands. Zoho, lots, okay? You don't have to have all the ones up here. Sometimes all you're doing is sending a little one out. I will also say, so the digital media space was huge. So I know SEO, SEM, social media ads, built hundreds of websites for the sole purpose of conversion and filling. In person, digitally. COVID, obviously, overnight collapsed millions of people, right? Including our event management business. Pivoted because of the digital media arm, and looked at only online. So for me, everything has always been, a lot of people who do events are like, we want to run an event and we want to make millions of dollars. I mean, you'll probably lose millions of dollars. Just for anyone who's listening, who's considering doing an event, I'm just going to say this, because it's not whether you come to me to do it or to anybody else. About 1 to 3% of events make money. They are a branding exercise at best. And whatever funds you've put aside to run an event, just like going to the casino, be prepared to lose it or go into some level of debt. Events don't make money, with the exception of companies like Success Resources, who do, have sales speakers who sell from the back of the room, and they're not making money from the event. They're making money from the speakers from stage. So you have to understand your model. And those companies are legacy-based institutions who have spent decades building from like the 80s. So if you're coming now going, so I'm going to go up against them as a competitor, good luck. They'll swallow you up. So you have to understand who your competitors are and what you're doing. So fine, do an event, but understand, like a billboard, it's a different form of advertising. Okay. It's just a different space for you to get your brand out. So I'm going to say that because the amount of times we get approached going, and I want you to make this make money. Not going to happen. Like really, like it's just not. You have to sell tickets to fill an event. Even the entities like your Live Nation who do DJs or who do major celebrity events, the amount of work that they go to and the spend to fill those events, they're like, oh my God, it's so easy. They brought out this comedian. Go, bring out a comedian, pay the expenses and fill the venue, the cost, the ticket, and then have commentary online about how easy they have it to. It is so much work to fill a venue, so much work to fill a restaurant. Right. Mm-hmm. And just, again, I'm just going to give context. I was having this conversation the other day. So just give some perspective, right? So let's go back to like roughly 10, 15, maybe 20 years, right? Running a restaurant, coffee was $2.50. and the average food was like main meal, $10, $15, right? Today, coffee, $10, right, for a coffee. Main meal, $40. Cost of goods still sits at between 28 and 32%, except the wholesale price now has inflated like by 70 to 120%. So, and don't even staff. So what, where you would need, let's say, $4,000 in a 60-seater restaurant, $4,000 a day to hit profit, you need $10,000 a day to hit profit, but there's no traffic because COVID killed everything. So these restaurants are having to aggregate in a 3-day time frame what they would have had 7 days to do at 50% less per day. And everyone's keyboard warrior is going, I can't believe this restaurant shut. Oh, well, you guys try it. And none of you are in the city because no one's in the city anymore during the week, or if they are, they're for this many hours. But then they're all being hypercritical on the fact that an hourly wage is now like $40 per hour as opposed to back then when you could do cash and, for a lot of the tourists, or it was $12 an hour. And yes, we know inflation, but it has exponentially increased. And then you've got the problem with customer service. And then on top of it, back to your sentiment, people are now going, so we're going to do SEO, SEM, social media, and they're paying third-party entities that they've got no familiarity with.
Yeah.
And I'm going to focus on small business. So just for an actual statistic, 500,000 businesses opened last year. 450,000 of them shut before the year was out. And you get entities getting locked into, and I'm going to focus more on the small business area. They get locked into contracts that are at least minimum 6 months, some of them 12, where they get management fees. Right? Mm-hmm. Because they'll get told now, if you do this, absolutely we can do ABC, SEO. Now what you have to do is you have to pay $2,000 a month, $5,000 a month, $1,500, whatever it is. And yes, we can get you from page here to here. And when they don't deliver, they go, now you know why we didn't deliver, and whatever ramble they want to tell you, because there's a war here and because this happened and because there's a fight here. Okay, so I'm going to go into a restaurant now and say to the chef, could you make me a steak? And he's like, I meant to give you the steak, but you know what happened? My knife fell down the sink, right? It's like that ad. My head went this way and nobody cares. I paid for the steak. I just want my steak, right?
Yeah.
But yet somehow in the marketing world, somewhere along the line, we've all just accepted that we can pay all these management fees out and no one has to deliver anything and there's no recourse. And Google AdWords, that's even worse. You're paying per click in a saturated market space, right? That there's no delivery. Oh, well, we just have to keep increasing. So you have to pay $40 a click. Oh, no, there's more. Now $70 a click. Oh, but also our fees are like $5,000. We've had some people that have come to us going, so we just want you to audit. I'm like, okay, so we're paying $10,000 on AdWords and we're paying $10,000 on social media and we're paying $5,000. Do you even know your source of truth? No. Oh, okay. So you know what would be better? If I just print out postcards, I'll print out like $30,000 worth of postcards and I'll just give them to you. And if you just go out and then you just find the nearest bin and you drop them in there, that's great advertising too. Why would I do that? Right?
Yep.
But yet you're doing the same thing because now of Meta, everything's interconnected. So you'll know if you search up best Thai restaurant in Adelaide and you jump on Facebook, guaranteed some ad or something's going to turn up. Mm-hmm. You don't have to pay for anything.
Yeah.
Ta-da! Yet people are paying, obscene, because things are interconnected. But even if that happened, even if you owned somewhere, are the people like that are even that's showing to, like you might be in that moment, but best Thai restaurant, there are 20 Thai restaurants. Is it even in your demographic? Like you're here, and I know I was saying where I'm going to potentially be going after here for a bite to eat, but it might be half an hour away and you're looking for something in a 200-meter radius.
There's a classic, I don't know if you read in the ABC News today, in the disability world, where there's a critical need for housing, that there's this shock that the SDA housing, which is specialised disability accessible housing, there are 1,000 empty properties that have all been newly built for people with a disability. And in Melbourne, there's one street with 10 empty SDA houses. And this goes to Adriana's point. So developers have got really excited that the federal government will give $110,000 a year to SDA owners. If you own an SDA house or specialised disabled accessible house. So they've gone out and built all of these houses in the outer suburbs. People with disability can't live out there because they need the amenity of care workers and accessibility, and they're the ones that actually use the library and all of these different things. So they're going, well, it's outrageous we've built all these houses. Like, great, you've built a restaurant that is so far away, nobody's going to go to it. And you're saying, but it's a really great restaurant. It doesn't matter if you haven't listened to and understand your customers, then they're not going. If you build it, they will come is a lie.
100%.
They will not come if you don't know. People with disability are not going to go out into the outer suburbs, because also the part that doesn't work, and I'm amazed that they're amazed that they're going, we don't understand how this has happened. So, have you noticed that support workers, allied health workers, are a skill shortage area? You'll never be out of work if you're a support worker, or you'll never be out of work if you're an allied health professional, because there's so much demand for your services. So if there's all this demand for your services and you're going to spend maybe get $60, $70 for a visit, are you going to want to do 10 visits within a 5-kilometre radius? Or are you going to do one visit that takes you an hour to get out there and an hour to get back, so you can maybe do 2?
But even just the cost of, even if you were driving, the cost of petrol.
Yep.
Even public transport now, has the pricing's gone up. I mean, everything's relative, right? I mean, and we talk about just the average cost of living, right? So whether it's food, lighting, gas, electricity, everything is ridiculous. So exactly to your sentiment, you're going to look at what's going to keep all your amenities, all your pricing, everything as low cost. So absolutely, you want whatever's in proximity. That'd be like even as, I'm a single mum, right? So even as a parent, if they went, so we've got a school for you, it's an hour and a half away, but it's free. Sure. No, except that the
Not
petrol
free.
to get
Yeah.
there
Exactly.
and the e-tag and everything else that I've got to take that's going to charge me when I do all the adding up, commercially, that's not going to make sense. Yeah, but it's free. No, it's not. So yes, there are things that, and to Crowds Now's point of view, what we're finding out. So Crowds Now is literally taking everyday people to elevate businesses. So we're disrupting the marketing space, right? And it's especially the influencer space. So one of the things we love about the fact that, because people are like, so it's like an influencer platform. Well, not unless, but then we're all influencers, okay? Mm-hmm. And that's what we always say. We say that because we do, right? So, I mean, if you like to drink coffee, then you can support your local coffee shop, right? If the clothes you're wearing, if that's a place that you like to buy your suits from, then why are they advertising anywhere else, and why aren't they empowering you to be a walking billboard for them? So, I'm going to pick without naming it, right? But let's say I take a luxury brand, right, that is spending $20 million a year on billboards and all sorts of, let's put something on the back of a bus. Sure, because I don't even remember what I ate 3 days ago, but I'm sure I remember something I saw on the back of a bus. Useful, right?
Bus advertising.
No, but I say to people all the time, like when we've gone in and met with companies who have shown us all their advertising spend, and I literally throw that out. I'm like, what did you eat for breakfast 2 days ago? And they're like, why? Because no one, even all the pop-up ad and everything, no one remembers it. It's the most, and I know the sentiment is if it's on repetition. The problem is we are saturated with noise. So I say this with lots of love and respect, but unless it's a naked man or woman covered in chocolate, I'm not going to remember it. Right? It has to be that controversial.
Yeah.
Or it's something I want to see, like it's an act or about. And even then, I will see it momentarily and be like, ooh, Oasis is coming. Okay, cool. And then I'm going to go, where are the tickets, right? So I would have seen something because I've got 400 things going on in my day. I'm not going to be like, oh, 1 second, get my phone.
Yeah. I know. I always think that.
QR code on the speeding bus. Which nuff thought that? One moment, please.
I just
Kids, hold on.
I'm
Mummy's
so in
got
agreement.
this. I mean, come on. Like, who thought that was a good... Unless it says, if you get this, $1 million being transferred to your account. Maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe, right? I actually said... as a joke, that inside trains that they should actually put just to see if anyone's paying attention. For every time you QR code, there's $100 gets sent to your bank account. Guarantee you, if they ran it even for 24 hours, like maybe 3 people
would notice it.
because because that's how transient we are. Like that people would be like, I bet it's like somewhat. And because even then, because we're overly cautious, they're like, you do it. No, you do it. You do it first. And because I bet it's like someone's going to hack into my site.
But that's the thing now, right? There's no trust in. You can't put a QR code.
Safety, right?
Social safety. You can't do it now.
And that's why crowds now is all about who would help you bury the body.
Yeah.
Right? You're not allowed to tag 20,000 people. It's not about an influencer thing. We have a running joke going on one of our socials saying if you've got 3 friends, you're overqualified.
So let's take a step back. Crowds Now, first of all, tell us what Crowds Now does as a business.
Sure.
And then go back a step and tell us when you decided that this was a good idea.
Okay.
So tell us what the idea is first, and then we'll go back and go, when did you decide that was a good idea?
So
what is Crowds Now?
So Crowds Now basically takes everyday people and essentially helps them keep lights on and food on the table. That's one part, by elevating and amplifying businesses. So because it marries them up with the business, because it's their ideal avatar, right? So it allows everyday people to become restaurant reviewers, art reviewers, movie promoters, right? So you can now, and it started because we wanted to support the local community, right? And small businesses, because if you've got a new business idea and you've put all your revenue, all your money, which might be $1,000, $5,000, right? And we know we're in a creator environment. Okay. So for those that are younger, they might be putting their first $500 into their whatever that is. And if you've been doing something that's bricks and mortar and you're basically, trying to work out how you're going to pay that mortgage, let alone your home, right? And you're just struggling to be seen because you're in an area where there's 30 other places, then you don't want to pay 3, 5, 10,000 for the next 6 months. But you don't need to. If you've got a 20-seater or a 60-seater, it doesn't matter whether it's a barbershop. It doesn't matter whether it's an art gallery where you're just trying to get visibility. And that's really what it is. How do you get visibility? And it's the word of mouth, right? So if let's take an art gallery, right? I mean, restaurants are the easy ones. So let's just take something a little bit different, and I'll take an art gallery and then I'll take a makeup brand. We can throw some different examples out, okay? But it's an art gallery. And what's the point in doing a billboard when 80% of the people that see that might not even like art? And even if you get a SEO campaign or a AdWords or a social media campaign, art's subjective, right? So I saw art, but that's nude art. It's not my thing. I like abstract art, like all the that's going to come back. So how do you get your exact avatar? And so Crowds Now, think of it like recruitment meets, I'll say Uber as far as, right? But you're basically able to put up exactly what you are and to the exact, I'll say narrative description, because it's not about your contact details, right? It's really about going, I like abstract art, or I like modern art, or whatever that is, so they can put who they are and what they like. And when you put that up and the different jobs that are up there, then they can attach themselves to it. Now, it might be that, and again, depending on, I'm using art as an example. Would you like to have a piece of art in your house, right? And then for X, Y, Z, so I'll use a nominal amount. Let's say it's for $100. We would require you to do, whether it's a Google review or a TikTok or a Instagram, whatever that requirement piece is. Now, I'm going to cross over with what you said. Now, let's say you go out and I say it's sampling at scale. It's creating social safety, right? Because maybe this place is just a little place. And so the idea of people finding it or seeing it, but people come to your house and go, oh my God, I love that. Where'd you get it from, right? So number one, you're sharing. Now, the cost for them doing that, yes, you've got a piece. It's like no different to places that loan it to hotels, right? So you've got a piece that's in your house, obviously, that's there. They might be doing this for 10 people for 3 months. You can actually rotate out. You're having a field day, right? Yes, you go.
Yeah, so I just want to understand this a little bit more. Let's say, okay, I really want a piece of art, which I actually do in our living room. I'm looking for a great piece of art. I would then go to Crowds Now, and you would match me up with, how does that?
Yeah, so think of it, like you have Seek.
Yes.
Okay,
yeah.
so because this is an app, right? So we're just the platform. It's a double-sided marketplace. So think of hundreds of businesses and companies, whether it's a makeup brand, whether it's a new product launch for a drink, whether it's a service-based industry, right? And everything's, so this is, I'll say it's patented, right? So how it works internally is they've got, I don't want to go through the whole breakdown of everything. But it's been running for 3 years. I'm saying a little bit more manually. So now we've upgraded, if you like. But essentially, the company front facing, you can't see who they are yet. So let's say by way of example, you've got 20 different companies, right? But this one of them's listed. It just goes art gallery looking for 20 people who are interested in abstract art. Now, they can actually search for people who have already said they're interested in whatever, but you may also, because you're looking, be looking for particular art, right? So you'll go in and you'll see an art gallery that's looking for, and they won't say what the name of the art gallery is because front facing, we don't say. So whether it's baby brands, tattoo parlor, whatever, it doesn't say, it just has our Crowds Now logo. And that's so that it keeps the anonymity of clients, okay? So whether they are a luxury handbag brand or an enterprise company or a small business, everyone is on same playing field, okay? Now they might aggregate 50 people, right? But they're only taking 20. There's no, let's see how many followers are on your Instagram. Nope, they can't see any of that. It's literally all they can see is first name, a profile photo that you chose to put up. It's just to validate. And by the way, with the onboarding, there is no data kept. There is a verification, a biometric verification that is put on there, and over 18. And that's it. Everything else is attributes based. And that's because we have some clients, by way of example, who might do jewelry. So they're looking at people with piercings or tattoos, or we have people who are doing things that are cosmetic based. So they might want people who have birthmarks or things like, because they're doing cover. So lots of different things, or someone who's pregnant because they're doing a baby expert. So there's really specific type. What people choose to load or not load is entirely up to you. And they will filter by specific attributes, or they will by likes. And obviously we're not going to get everything because it's impossible. So we have requests going, can you add this? So, barbershops may want men with a particular moustache. So we've tried to come up with as many variants, and we're constantly updating, but the list is like exponential, right? Do you like soft drinks? Do you like it's forever, all right? But the more we have, the more places can hone down on what they want. And it's not skills-based. No one cares if you can act, sing, dance, or whatever. It's nothing to do with that. It is purely on supporting a brand, right? So do you like coffee? Great. No, I like tea. Good. Go do that one. Do you like wine? Yet to have someone say no to alcohol, right? Yeah. Literally. And so let's say nightclubs are a big one, right? Any nightclub or bar that's trying to get visibility, I have not had anyone that's gone, no, don't send us alcohol. We don't want to test any new beverage that's coming. But we will have, let's say you can have whiskey to, there, right? Obviously you're not getting sent something like this. You're getting sent something, right? So things that are relative makeup. So I can tell you, lots of products where you have to put things on your face. People are a little bit more, like I'd be going to my friends. Did it burn your lips? Like, can you just let me know that? And that's creating social safety around a brand. It's no different to 3 restaurants in a row where one's dead, or 2 or 3, but one's full. That one might have I can tell we've done exercises, a Michelin star chef in it, and people will still go to the one with canned spaghetti because it's busy, and that's it. And that's the only reason why. And it's because we've literally, been done this exercise. To your point earlier on, if you provide terrible service, if you go and we tell people to do this slowly, because you take 5 people, so you're paying them, right, to go in and experience, like sampling at scale, okay? Now, there's a double-edged sword because you can pay them for their genuine feedback. There's nothing we can do to stop people to go, now we want you to say, we are amazing. Sure. So you can curate that response. You'll get one layer of that. Because if I bring my friends and I tell them it's amazing because I just wanted to make a quick $100 and they come in and it's crap and they told their friend and I lied to them, I won't get to do, number one, they won't believe me. They won't trust me for anything else. So that I'm also going to hurt my own network. But number 2, that business won't be there in 3 months. And so when we've tried to share this with individuals who are like, oh my God, because one of the things with crowds now is you're not mandated. There's a minimum per hour, right? Just legal requirements, right? So you can't go, oh, I'm going to give you $2 now. It's not going to happen, right? So it's mandated. And also there's some fixed things, right, that are there as well. However, if you go, I'm going to fill my restaurant with 80 people and make it look like it's buzzing and do things like that, you can shut your own venue down in like a month because it is still trial by social media. And people will go, they are actually full of rubbish. It is the worst place, worst service, couldn't get anything, and it doesn't matter. It might look really busy for a really short period of time and then it'll die. So I always say to people, do it slow. Take on board the feedback. Do it with 5. And if the feedback comes back that your service is terrible, the food's terrible, whatever it is, onboard it. Use it. Grow from it. And then use us again in like 2 months. Like use it almost like in a mystery shop capacity, right?
So if you were starting a business today, like let's say pick a gym franchise or something, how would you tackle your marketing and branding? What would be some of the strategy and the tactics you would do to launch it and grow it?
Yeah. So branding, logos and all of that, I just think is the biggest myth ever. I think people get so caught up on the semantics of what color should I use? And am I more feminine and masculine? And I'm like, there's literally a company out there called boohoo.com. Like, stop it. Like, it doesn't mean anything. Kleenex isn't even a real name and people say it instead of tissue. Like, stop hiring companies and paying obscene amounts of money for logos and branding. A brand is whatever people adopt, right? You could literally call it Ooga Booga and it could be a multi-million-dollar company. Enough. Like, stop, right?
It needs to be memorable.
Yeah. Well, I would say lots of things become memorable for either the right or wrong reason, right? So what makes it memorable? So restaurants think they're in the food industry. They're not.
Because I'm obviously a brand designer, so I get very passionate about this. I would judge a company based on how they look. Like if it's a restaurant and it looks like let's say a pizza place and it's got like a pizza chef with the pizza there and it's like Raw Meals Pizza, I would purposely not go there because like that just, to me, just looks, I don't trust it. It doesn't look tasty. But if it's like a pizza place that has more of a brand that connects with me, I'm like, that looks great. I want to step in there.
But if you've gone into a venue and had a great experience, I would imagine, yes, obviously you don't want something that looks like there's cockroaches, right?
Mm-hmm.
But some of the best experiences I have had are to do with culture, speed, service, like the people and who I'm with. I've been in places that have looked amazing and had the most horrendous service ever.
Mm-hmm.
It's been talked up, and I've eaten in a lot of places around the world. I come from the hospitality industry. My pet hate, all right, is seeing staff talking while my plates are empty, and I will get up and just take my plate over, and I'm like, I don't mean to interrupt your weekend discussion. Here you go, because I cannot. If it was back when I had my like restaurants and like, you know, no, just unacceptable. Like, why are empty plates sitting whilst you guys are having a conversation? Am I boring you? Like, what are you guys talking about that's so interesting that you've missed servicing the clientele? And I see it a lot, you know, and they walk with their head down. Did you drop something on the floor? You know, so, or they'll stand from here to even where you are. You'll be like, excuse me. And they go, yes. Walk over. What are you doing? It's just lazy service. So for me, all those things, so I absolutely hear you, but I feel like we are buying more than 4 walls and a floor when we walk into a venue. That's just my and I think whether that's retail, and even that, like they'll stand behind a counter, you walk in, can I help you? Yes, you can move from behind the counter that you have been standing at for the last, 3 hours and actually act like you care that there's a customer in your shop. But because they don't treat the business as if that business's bottom line was their bottom line, that's why they're not making the sale, because it's all about connection at the end of the day.
It's also a delusion that people have when they describe what their value proposition is for their business. I was with a group last week and they were describing how their work is in compliance. And so I said, what's your value proposition? What's your customer promise? And they said, well, that we'll audit and look for mistakes. And I was like, oh my God. That's like a corner store saying we give good customer service. So you don't get credit for that. That's what it says on your tin. Mm-hmm. You don't get credit for what it says on the tin. You get credit for how I feel when you're doing it for me. Mm-hmm. And so if you're a compliance firm, you're not in the compliance business. I bought that because it says it on the tin. What I'm buying is safety. Mm-hmm. I want to know that if I use you, I'm not going to get sued or I'm not going to hurt someone. So I'm buying safety from you, not compliance. And I said, so where does that come through in the way you work and the way you hire, and also in your KPIs? Because that was part of where the conversation was around their staff development, and they were complaining that their staff were. It was really interesting. Their staff were complaining about how stupid customers were. It was mind-blowing and I was like, wow. So they said, oh, obviously we don't say that out loud. We only say that in here. And I said, your face says it. That's exactly what I said. Your body language says it. Like, yes. It also, the thing that I asked them about was curiosity. How do you think you demonstrate curiosity? And they said, oh, we always demonstrate curiosity. We ask why. And I said, show me. And they said, why do you do this? Why do you do that? Oh, I'm interested. Why do you do that? And I said, cool. That's one way of demonstrating curiosity. Not a very good way, but it's a way. I said, here's a different way. I'm curious. How did you come to the decision you made to do it that way? Now, why did you do it that way versus I'm curious, how did you come to a decision to do it that way? Which one is going to elicit an honest answer? It's really obvious, right? But so how that comes from a care, and it comes from a place where there's the application of kindness in the way that we speak and the way that we think comes from before they even walk in the door. It's the way you treat your staff. It's the way you think about your clients. But they can see it in whether it's your marketing, they can see it in your service, even the way they can see it in the way you say thank you. And it comes to that, I value your time and I assume good intent and I want to be kind. If you want to do those three things, money will fall out of that. Just by accident, it's like you'll be accidentally successful because it's the recipe. It's a success recipe, and that's what you're trying to bring your clients' attention to, right?
100%. Well, I think that, like I said, everyone wants to feel important and special and seen, and I think it's also this generation that we're in where everyone just does email and text. No one wants to answer a phone. It's infuriating to me. Just pick up, because so much is lost in inflection and tone, right? And again, it's feeling not just invisible, so unimportant, right? If you were trying to be in a business relationship or a relationship with your children or with your partner, and you only were responded to an email and text, how long do you think that would last? How significant would you feel? And these are conversations I have, I say, with staff or even with other corporations. When I look at where things fall over, I'm like, pick up the phone. Stop being avoidant. So especially as things start to fall over, we're avoiding conflict. No, you're not. You're amplifying it.
Yes.
The minute the problem happened, you should have immediately remedied it. You can't avoid it. All you're doing is escalating and escalating because you're not doing anything.
Adriana, what are some of the things that you do in your company to make your staff feel special?
So I think, first of all, I think you have to lead by example. So there's absolutely nothing I would ever ask of any of them. And I think so it's, twofold. Nothing I would ask of any of them that I would not do myself. I think succession planning is a really big one. I think they always have to have something to look forward to. Because then they know that there's a pathway for them to go to. So I think asking them what they want to, where they want to be. And sometimes it's not always staying within the organization, right? So they will have other companies that they want to go to or want to be at. I taught at the event management college at one particular point, and there was a young girl there, by way of example, and she wanted to work for Lorna Jane. And we were doing an event for the Australian Women's Network. And she was there. And we made the introduction and she was like, And at the time she was studying, and she was also doing marketing and branding. She now works for the organization. But it was just making, again, those introductions. And I think even within our organization, when we have individuals who, whether they're, coders or developers or in events or in marketing, and they've identified somewhere else they want to be, I think people get threatened or they get concerned, I'm going to lose an individual. And if you, I always say it's like holding sand. If you go like that, they're going to disappear anyway, right? So if you can nurture that succession, and as long as they're like loyal to you when you've got them and you look at and they feel they've got that pathway built out, 100%, then, you've done, I believe I've done what I'm supposed to have done and nurtured that growth, because I think that's my job as a leader. No one's yours. It's not ownership. It's not possession, So I think there's that. I'm very incentive based. And I think as well, different industries, different areas. When I was in restaurants, there was no point me walking in going, so our GOP is at this percent. They would have just been like, great. So if we hit this, we're all going to get a 5%. Would have meant nothing. So instead, they would have been things like, I'm just trying to think, but let's say Cloudy Bay Sauv Blanc, we've got, 20 bottles left. First person who sells the most is getting, an extra $100 today. And it was like game on, like they were on the floor. So the incentive has to marry up with who they are as an individual, right? Per entity. Same with the developers, right? Like if I've got some deadlines, I don't want them to lose the quality of work, but I know their capability in pushing them a little bit more because I know what they're capable of, right? That doesn't mean they're not going to make mistakes or they're not going to try and cut corners because they want to win, right? But it's identifying both and finding that balance. And I think you have to always be praising. I think we forget to appreciate people as well. I think that, as a society, there's this expectation, deliver, and we're never being grateful. And like truly saying, I'm lucky to have you here. Thank you so much for being here, because that culture, that appreciation, that cultivates loyalty. If people feel not appreciated, and again, this is, a vertical that goes across everything, any kind of relationship, right? If you don't feel appreciated or wanted, it's going to be very easy for someone else to take you.
Mm-hmm. Isn't it, Millie, you and I have talked about this a few times as well, is in this world, in the age of AI and data and digital and social media, and Adriana's touched on this as well, there's so much about making a noise as opposed to doing or saying something meaningful. Mm-hmm. So there's a lot about making a noise, but not about making a connection. And that I get asked by, later this week, I'm been asked to give a keynote about what should directors be thinking in the age of, or asking in the age of AI. One of the key things that I think the answer to that is, have a think about how much you're spending on your AI plan, but also your HI plan. They're like, my what? It's like, so how big is your human intelligence, and how much are you investing in retaining and developing your human intelligence? Because you know what? Technology will not replace connection. It won't replace good manners. It won't replace genuine care. And so we're getting really overexcited about technology, and I feel underexcited about developing our humans. But it'll be those who are really good humans and really good at humaning combined with technology will beat everybody. But I think you can have lots of who-ness and be a really great human, but I think the really great humans using technology will beat you. But technology alone won't cut it.
Well, it's interesting because we're in an arena now where we can have absolutely everything we want without any human interaction. It's actually really scary, right? Want a date? Swipe. Want telehealth? Swipe, right? Need shopping delivered? Swipe. Like, we actually don't need to, I won't go into all the different segues, but literally can have whatever we want and don't need to speak to a person. Depression, suicide, all of those that all escalated as a result, right?
Oh, sorry.
No, you go.
I was just picturing a moment like this. What I'm getting really frustrated at everywhere you go, well, not everywhere, is most restaurants or pubs, and you only order through the QR code on the table. So, and I've got a 4.5-year-old, so we're actually making a habit, asking him, like, George, why don't you go up to the counter and order and speak to a person? Otherwise, just growing up in a world where everything, it just frustrates me so much.
So I'll ask this question to you, right? So it's really interesting. So if you could watch a concert at home, on television, isn't that exactly the same experience as being there in person around all these people?
Mm.
Yeah, massively not.
Correct, right? It's just, right? Like, whether it's Def Leppard or Kylie Minogue, because if that was the case, we'd be like experiencing Elvis back in the most ridiculous sense. So everyone's like, but it's the same.
Mm.
Yeah. I'm sorry, what? It is absolutely not. The entire electricity, the environment, the people, it doesn't matter what it is. It doesn't even matter if it was a room this big now, right? And you had someone that you looked up to walked in, that euphoric feeling, that hit, you're like, oh my God. That excitement that you feel, it doesn't matter whether it's a director of a company, it doesn't matter whether it's a first date or a celebrity you've been dying to see, or that that feeling, you're not getting that from something remote. It's just not the same, because it's connection that makes that all come to life, right? And so part of what a lot of businesses are missing, so first of all, trying to get lead generation in is literally like casting a net in the middle of the Pacific Ocean that's this big and hoping that someone like Finding Nemo is going to swim into it, right? And being charged like $100,000 for the pleasure. And that's what it feels like to businesses right now because they're all drowning, okay? And I'm going to use a luxury brand, right? And, doesn't matter what the brand is, but let's say take a handbag, like a high-end luxury handbag brand that spends millions and millions and millions of dollars. Let's use an example because they are on billboard. You go through Asia, like billboard sides of buildings and everything, right? But they're spending an exponential amount of money. And I'm just doing this as an exercise. I'll do a car one in a second, right? Because I would say 80% of the audience that walks past those, I'm buying from them. Because we've all seen the stores going, how are they still here?
Yeah.
Like, I don't understand. Do they own the freehold? Because how, right? So just by way of an exercise, right? Let's say everyone in this room was their buying audience. And they went, so what we're going to do is we're going to give you, whether it's a briefcase, a handbag each, okay? We're going to give you, I don't know, 4 of them, like once a quarter, okay? Because chances are if you're our buyer, and because you already are buying, I'm saying you're our buying audience of one of these brands, and we're going to give you $1,000 a month, okay? And all you have to do is be our walking billboard. But they have extensive databases. So we're just going to pick like 100 people globally. And every quarter it's not even on loan. We're giving you, whether it's an old one, you get to pick, okay? There's people out there right now going, wait, is this actually happening? So, but I'm just saying, right? Imagine if because if I am their client base, chances are my inner circle or a couple probably are as well, right? And so if I was going out on my social going, oh my God, I love my new blah, blah, blah. And I was not salesy, right? I'm just saying, like if I had photos where I was out and it was all natural, organic UGC, wherever I was out, I was, and now I was literally a walking billboard and I was around my friend and they're like, oh my God, I love your bag. I'm like, I know, love it too, right? So now you've got a raving fan base that is bound by some level of agreement to constantly be wearing. And the next one, and the next one. And they're paid in a year, $12,000. That's their actual buying demographic. They're turning their actual clients, instead of billboards and multi-millions of dollars, into people who are advocating for their brand. So we know when we walk into an ice cream shop, right? Sampling at scale. Can I try the chocolate? Can I try the vanilla? Right? Imagine if an alcohol brand did that. Can I try that whiskey and that scotch before I buy the bottle? Yeah. I mean, like you do when you go for a wine tasting, right? You do that. And then how many cases do you buy?
Yeah.
Right? Imagine if you could do that. Like you're in the market for a car and, Mercedes went, why don't you have the car for the next 2 months and see how you feel? Your friends have
drive day.
Drive, but I'm saying a drive day is one thing. You have it for a couple months while your friends have all been in it. Mm-hmm. Try and hand that back. It's not happening.
Yeah.
One thing's a day. You're like, it's been in my garage and my friends, and they're like, where's your car? Like, you are not handing that back. It is when I say sampling at scale, right? You're talking about something else entirely. So where part of what Crowds Now is doing is we're saying to organizations, spend your money differently. These are people who are nurture your existing, if someone's got a Mercedes from you from 5 years ago, hello, do you want them to go to another car brand? Make them your raven. They're already telling you they are. They're already telling you they love their brand. If they switch out, you know whose fault that is? Yours. Instead of spending $3 million there, and I know all the advertising companies are going to love me, right? But instead of doing that, because when people go, well, you know, the advertising company promised me, their job is to sell space. They have mouths to feed as well. It's not that they're not doing their job. And it's not that there's not a space for advertising. There absolutely is, but not for the small businesses. It isn't for them. Right now, all those little businesses, they're not enterprise companies with hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars to spend. So they are looking for ways in just to get visibility. They are looking for ways to basically like get traffic into their businesses, whether they or that they're doing a product launch and they just need to be seen. They just need to know if they've got viability. So when you've got the organizations even that do split testing to know, what do we come out with? Do we do this? They do it anyway. They get these groups, they put them in rooms like this and they go, do you like this or this? Now you can do split testing on a global scale. You can send out 30 versions of lipstick because, you know.
To people who already know.
Correct. You already got them buying your brand. You might as well ask the actual market segment that loves your stuff, this pink or this pink?
Yeah. Adriana, let's talk about you, the entrepreneur, for a second as we start to wrap up. I'm interested. We ask this of our entrepreneurs a lot. When did you decide, or when did you notice that you weren't like all the other kids? When did you decide you weren't normal?
So I think I was about 9 or 10, and I heard my mum say to someone, "If you've got a difficult job, just give it to Adriana. She'll find an easier way to do it."
Yeah. So wow, you was really 9 and your mum sending people. So are you were saying before you're the eldest of 5.
Yeah.
Are you the one that still fixes things? Are you the coper, the one that will cope with all of the things? Yes, I'm
also the black sheep.
Often it's funny how those two things are connected.
Yeah. So so definitely that. I'm even when I used to do events and people go, so what do you guarantee? And I go, I guarantee something will go wrong. And they're like, that's a terrible guarantee. And I'm like, well, when it does, I'm the person you're going to want, because I literally will mitigate risk. Like I will know 40 different versions of the things that will go wrong. And whilst you're busy doing whatever it is you do, you won't even know what they are. I'll brief you later, but I would have mitigated all the different versions of them already, and they'll be fixed before you even. I'll see them before they happen, and I'll fix them before they come undone.
Yeah. So crowds now, irrespective of how big and successful it gets, it sounds, just listening to you, that crowds now is just yet another idea in an endless supply of ideas, or is this it? Is this the one, do you think?
For now, I mean, crowds now for me, so it was born out of COVID because so many people were displaced. I mean, COVID was devastating, right? For lots of people who, you know, lost their jobs. Obviously, a lot of people took their life. And then obviously there were industries that just collapsed. And I knew I had a skill set where I was being able to fill, I mean, not just in Australia, I was doing things with London's West End. I was filling venues around the world. And I went, how can I take what I do? And I think I've always sort of, I need that's than just me. You know, I do and always have done work with a lot of charities. And I wanted, I think, I say for my environment and my world to feel good, I needed to do something that elevated, was the sort of the hashtag that I have, Together We Rise. So the platform's free. And that's probably the other bit for me. There's a huge accountability piece. So the platform's free for talent. Organizations obviously have to, it's, you know, the B2C, they pay talent, but again, it's up to where they are. So, you know, that obviously, yes, there's a threshold of minimum entry as far as that you can't go below. But then it's up to whatever they want to, they can go as high as they want to, you know, based on, if you only want to get 2 people and pay them to be able to come in and advocate based on doing 1 social media post, then you can do that. So everyone gets to start somewhere to help their business. Now, our accountability piece. So we take a small commission, but let's say you get 10 people and you've given them a free meal, and I'm just going to use let's say a small amount, like $20 each to do something, but only 2 people have actualized and done that because the money gets held in escrow, which is basically a holding fee until they do the job. We don't take commission like a management. We don't take that on the 10 people that were supposed to have done the job. If only 2 people complete, only those 2 people get paid, and we only get the commission on the 2 people who have done what they're supposed to have done for your business. So we are also held accountable for that. So that's really important as well. So we only win if you win as a business too. And therefore it's sort of everybody, that sort of sentiment, together we rise, because I think if you're doing something to sort of pay it forward to help everybody else, then there's enough to go around. And I think, I say trust begets trust, help begets help. And if everybody's helping everybody, then there's enough for everyone. And this is sort of really where I want to put my focus for, at least the next, sort of 5 to 7 years. I think AI is great for tasks, right? It's great for all the things you need to tick off, right? You want to make reminders and lists. I'm all for that. But I think for businesses to thrive, the customer service, the sort of fingerprint of excellence, being idiosyncratic, like really being there and facilitating and help, we have to strip back. We have to go back to when we, to what you said, when we cared, where there's compassion and empathy. I think we've lost ourselves a little bit because we've, face down. We've forgotten to look up.
That's what earlier on Raymond said as well, that he has a farm where people walk around, and he said, I can't stand it when they've got their headphones on a farm. He said, if you take the headphones off and you go and see in nature, how into the silence of nature, you'd be surprised how loud it is, with birds and breezes and noises and all these different things. And it was about making the time to still notice what's going on around you, and that's also what you're saying is look up and notice.
Yeah.
Adriana, thank you so much. I love the energy and that you have brought to our conversation this morning. We ask everybody as well. We asked Dan this question, and he, of course, Dan. When I say Dan Gregory, watch him on season 2. And of course, he gave an unusual answer to this question because he does. You're having a bad day. Mm-hmm. You're in a bad mood. Someone's really annoyed you. And you're in the car and a song comes on, and no matter how bad your mood is, it cracks you out of it and you're smiling and you're singing along. What is it? What's the song?
So it's Vanilla Ice. Ice, baby.
There you go.
Yeah.
We haven't had that one.
No, that's
another one for the Spotify playlist.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
Cool.
Why?
I don't know why.
There you go. It's even better. Even better. I don't know why.
It just is.
Fantastic.
Yeah, thank you.
Adriana Brusi, thank you so much for being on the CEO Advantage podcast. We've loved having you.
Thanks for having me. It's been great.